I don't know if you saw what I did for the thumbnail last week. The thumbnail's different now. I flew too close to the sun last week, and I nearly nuked my channel. Not even joking. So, there's two different types of strikes on YouTube. There's community guidelines, and then there's copyright strikes. Community guideline strikes are the big ones, right? YouTube, when they dish those out, it usually means you ain't gonna make it to the finish line. Now, I woke up last week, and my thumbnail was gone on Hell's Paradise. Still monetized, still up. I was like, oh, that's weird. So I checked my email associated with YouTube, and they're like, hey, Brandon, we looked over that thumbnail, bruh. You shouldn't do that. It was like, hey, we understand the thumbnail in the context of the video is probably okay, but we just don't want that as a thumbnail. And you know what? I looked at that and I said, yeah, you're right. They didn't even give me a warning, which is actually nice. See, usually what happens on your first guideline strike, they give you a warning to say, hey, we're not striking you yet. Because if you get a community guideline strike, you can't upload for a week. They didn't give me a warning, thankfully, nor did they give me a strike. They just said, hey, we're just going to remove that thumbnail, big dog. Having her naked on top of him, even with your emojis and your covering, because the thumbnail was the blood goddess and the straddling scene. And I'll be honest, when I made that thumbnail, I thought maybe that was too much. And to be honest, it was. I got a little too horned up with that island. That's my bad. But thank you, Daddy YouTube, for not striking my channel. I probably deserved one, if I'm being honest. So thank you. Anyway, let's goon safely this week. Oh, what? Oh, I don't like that at all. I'm fine with the stab, but it's the jerking motion. And not the fun kind. Alright, calm down, Ice. Jesus. They're having a funeral and bro's like, oh, I just want to go home and rest. Pinnacle of fucking empathy right there. Oh my goodness. This guy's not to be fucked with. Woo! Yeah, I think they made this season more violent than season 1. There's more detail to the... When the dude was stabbing his throat, the cut... I feel like it's more real? I learned my lesson. Only titties and thumbnails and brutality. No more cowgirl. I've learned my lesson. Now, I gotta be honest. This might be the best episode of the season, which is weird because it started, and honestly, for the most part, it felt the most different than any episode of the season of Hell's Paradise. But I gotta be real, the biggest surprise for me is this show has never really shied away from gore. It's always been a mutated, monstrous mess. But there was something about the visuals when the dude stabbed and just like... He jerked it in his neck like... And when he cut that dude's face, I feel like the gore was way more realistic this week. Am I crazy? And I like gore, but even I felt my stomach churning a little bit. That was insane. Of course, if you got this far in the video, know what to do. Drop a like, share your support, subscribe, ring that bell if you haven't already, and Patreon is where you'll catch my full live reactions to some more. It does help fund the channel and videos just like these. Now, I'll admit, overall, there was like a lot of setup, a lot of establishing stuff, just kind of like still, this is a group that I think a lot of people are gonna underestimate shouldn't be together, so the fact that they are butting heads but still coming together is nice to see. But the big star attraction was seemingly best boy who probably needs to die. I mean, bro is an absolute menace. He unfortunately has a justice boner so far up his ass that I don't think there's any reasoning. If the law says one thing, he believes it's you fall away. You break it, I guess you die. And unfortunately, I don't think we can get through to someone like that. I mean, sure, we could beat him in a fight, and in doing so, potentially let him live, but I think before this Hell's Paradise story is over, I don't know when that's going to be, because honestly, you could convince me that we're approaching the end game to the same degree that we have approached the midpoint of the story, and either one would make sense. I just don't see how we don't end this season, or the following season, with him not dying after probably killing some of our people, unless we just completely avoid him, which would honestly be pretty impressive. And honestly, I think I'd go as far to say this was probably one of the freakiest episodes of Hell's Paradise. I mean, definitely of this season, but there was some kind of horror imagery in the first season that I can't undersell. But everything about this, like, this is presented as the good guys, right? You're coming to this island, you're gonna purge it, and the whole plan is basically, we're gonna kill every living thing on this island, and then we're gonna go back home. They're fucked, right? Like, they have a whole ass army that's just insane. Pure insanity. Now, characters like Gabimaru, I think, could probably take a lot of the grunt soldiers without much effort, but once you get into the star attractions and the main fighters, that's getting a little rough. I mean, remembering how this show started, they all did pretty well with a lot of the intro giant monstrosities, but it also quickly destroyed a lot of the criminals on the island, and it feels like, the best way I can describe it, imagine if Levi from Attack on Titan didn't need maneuver gear and just punched the Titans in the leg to get them on eye level before punching their heads clean off. Like, what do you even do against that? But there was something about this episode in particular, which probably helps because it's like, well, they just got to the island too. But I felt like they really upped their visual game in terms of pure horror, because this island is just, it's pure hell, right? Like, I mean, it's funny at face value, like, hey, look at that dumb little face. But then it's like, no, if that thing was approaching you, you would be shitting your pants. The more I see of this island, the more, yeah, truly it is a hell's paradise. It's a kind of a double meaning. Like, yeah, if you're on the end, you absolutely are going to be having orgies and enjoying life, I guess. But everyone else is really not in the cool club, huh? Brutal. And I mean, they do establish in this episode too that, like, hey, he'd be great on our side, but he is such a affinity to justice that you're not going to reason with him. And honestly, I kind of believe it. The thing that I like about Hell's Paradise is that despite it being overly graphic and disgusting, the way they write the sexual perversions of this island and the horrors of this island together in this intertwined web that's just so closely together, you never quite know what you're going to get. And that's why it's so interesting when you think about the immortals on this island and them chasing that eternal life, how they view it as this utopia, but everyone else not in the club views it as hell. It really is Hell's Paradise. I think it's one of the best named anime in recent memory because it really does represent everything that the show has in such a beautifully simplistic way. But let me know your thoughts down below. We're going to play it a little safer with the thumbnail this week for obvious reasons, but your thoughts, drop a like, show your support, subscribe if you're new around here, ring that bell, and Patreon for live reactions and exclusives like, hey, I'd love to give video shoutouts to my patrons because they make these videos possible. So today we got Taco Tuesday, X Nico, Pokemon, The Gentleman, Derek Nichols, Stephen Thomas, MJ Minion, Azoff Montgomery, Migs021, Gareth Green, Durberg, Jude, Third Dynasty, and Arter Kunha. So I appreciate the support. Please take care and y'all have a good one.